take a load off and grab a seat. Pull up a chair, prop up the feet, that's fine by me. Fine by me. Yeah, it's podcast time.
Tonight, dude. I'm trying to wake up, man. We ate supper like 30 minutes ago and I gorged myself. I ate way too much. Now I'm just burping. That's Sloppy Joe's.
Just I ate Chick-fil-A and I was you said 5 minutes and I was like, oh, I gotta take a shower or something to get back
Yeah.
up and running.
Well, speaking of Chick-fil-A, we would like to welcome you to another episode of Fine by Me. Not sponsored by Chick-fil-A, but
If you
whatever.
you haven't heard, Nick Cook unfortunately has passed away in a tragic hot air balloon accident. Um, but he will be back next week.
I thought he was finally doing that off Broadway version of Dallas Buyers Club because he has AIDS.
Yeah.
I mean, for the people maybe not following along, that's about a man that has AIDS. Matthew McConaughey. Oh, speaking of AIDS, man, what about the current state of the world?
Man, it's burning down, is it not?
Are we going to war again? Is this is the storyline of the millennial? Is war in the Middle East?
I was gonna say I mentioned it the other day, I think when I was talking to you guys, but it seems like every 5 years in my lifetime, troops are like it's like we could be putting troops in the Middle East at any moment.
Yeah, you never know.
Like
We
that
pretty much keep
my
we
whole
keep
life.
aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean Sea all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
USS
they just
Liberty.
hang out there. Yeah, and Gerald, or is it the Gerald Ford that's there now? It's the biggest aircraft carrier. They just moved it, or they're mobilized it. Maybe I don't know. I can't keep up.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be able to tell you either, to be honest.
Different names. I know that the Nimitz is an old one, and it's out there floating around.
It's getting sunk soon.
We'll see. I guess you never know. They said I do think that if we don't do something with Iran probably in the next couple of days, I don't think we will. You know what I mean? I think the more it goes out, the less likely it is that there's like US, us like, flying our airplanes over Iran or whatever.
Oh, you don't think we'll
I think
mobilize at all?
the longer it waits, the less likelihood of it happening because right now we know that their air defense systems are offline. This would be the time that we would want that because they have to fly a B-2 to drop that bomb. It's like 30 foot long or something, like 30,000 pounds. So they have to use a big airplane. So it's pretty vulnerable. You know what I mean?
I think it was
So I think,
Putin. I think it was today. Putin said that we best not engage against Iran, or else he's gonna step in, or Russia's gonna step in as well.
I got you. Does the president not have to have authority of Congress to do this?
He does. Thomas Massey.
I don't know how this works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does. Thomas Massey, and there's a chick. Thomas Massey,
Yeah.
obviously being a Republican from Kentucky. And then the gal, I can't remember what her name is off the top of my head right now, but they've created some kind of bill or legislation or something or whatever to where it would block us going in to boots on the ground or just enabling any of our forces to go against Iran or whatever. So there's and the chick is on the other side of the aisle. The chick is a Democrat, Thomas Massey being a Republican, so it's like a bipartisan thing to for us to not get involved. I'm sure it won't get
Right. What?
because there's more Republicans and Democrats that have uh, uh Lockheed and all the big
Yeah.
companies in their pockets or whatever that are like, hey, we're going to give you a couple billion if you let us go in or whatever.
Like I said, I guess time will tell. I don't think we should get into another war. I just don't. It just puts a bad taste in my mouth, I guess, from like my childhood.
Well, I mean, it's one of the things that Trump ran on too was no new wars.
Right. Well, yeah, we don't, but
He also said we'd be out of Ukraine by now, or that war would be done day one of him being in office, and that hadn't happened either. So
right.
here we are.
Politicians be politicking, dude.
True,
What
true.
they be doing. But so back to, I guess that's kind of a downer. So me and Wes have
Yeah.
been talking
I
all
mean, there's
week.
nothing
No, there's
really
nothing
happy
fun about
going
that.
on right now.
No. I thought maybe we could. I was trying to pull something funny out of that, and I just couldn't do it. I was like,
I
I
was
just
gonna
couldn't
say
do it.
there's not.
So let's talk about a war that's already happened.
Yeah. Have
Yeah,
you seen
yeah,
Tel Aviv lately?
yeah. Dude, it doesn't look good out there for any of it. Tehran don't look too good either. The pictures I've been seeing coming out of there, So
Somebody, I was talking about something today at work. Funny, this will sort of be funny, I guess. But something. So if we run like a certain search on, say, an ex-girlfriend or something at work, because
mhm.
I have a lot of things at my disposal to like
Right,
get
information
information or whatever.
if you wanted to.
And and I remember whenever I first started with this company, they were like, if you use this, and like we like their systems like search, and if
Yeah,
like you put in a certain your claim number and you search for somebody who's not associated with that claim, it triggers. And if you search for somebody that may be a part of your life in some way, it automatically sends them
it's
an email if there's an email available and something in the mail certified saying that you got searched. And I was like, and I remember whenever I first started, I was like, yeah, I can find another job, but I would be so embarrassed by that bell
yeah.
going out that I would move countries.
Just be like, hey, man, I know what you've been doing. But
And
I didn't do that. But I got a letter that
and,
says you've been looking at me.
and somebody said, I don't remember what somebody said back to me, and
Did I get the restraining order back on?
I said I would move countries, and then I said I hear Tel Aviv is real nice this time of year. Somebody on my team said might be a little too soon for that joke.
Might be a little too soon. It's big, but it's not a joke. Like it is nice. So they say it's in the cradle of civilization.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So y'all might like this
we
episode, you might not.
I think the war that we're going to talk about is one of the first modern day wars that we've ever had. Whenever both
Yeah,
sides had guns, stuff like
yeah, man, it's pretty rough. It was the war that had modern mechanical weapons, but ancient ways of medicine and all that stuff. There was no like obviously electricity or refrigeration or antibiotics.
yeah.
Things that you need on a battlefield a lot of times, antiseptics and things, and just know-how. But they did uh they did also discover a lot of medical advancements as well, obviously.
What are we talking about, Josh?
We're talking about the American Civil War.
Okay. All
It
right.
started April 12th, 1861, and lasted until May 26th of our Lord's year, 1865. So, if you're not familiar with the American Civil War, not the one we're about to start fighting here in a couple of years, maybe a couple of months, but the OG one, it was between the Confederate States of the South and the Northern States of the Union. And President Abraham Lincoln was over the Union, and President Jefferson Davis was over the Confederate States. Do you know what state seceded first, Wes?
Wasn't there Virginia?
It was South Carolina.
Oh, that was close. Okay.
South Carolina
I
was
knew it was
the first to secede.
one of those states
South,
in there, yeah.
yeah, and then it was followed. That was followed by Mississippi, oh mighty Mississippi, and then you had Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas. Then you had Virginia was the seventh state that seceded, and then you had Arkansas, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Border states would be Missouri, Kentucky, West Virginia, which wasn't a state when the Civil War started. It broke up during the Civil War because they didn't agree with Virginia's rhetoric.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Delaware was kind of like and I think Maryland was kind of thrown in there too, of just kind of being a neutral, or they call it more like battleground state. There wasn't really any neutral states because they always said going through Kentucky, you pretty much had to make it to Ohio to be all the way safe. Because
Yeah,
in Kentucky, yeah, you didn't know for sure.
I was gonna say Kentucky had a whole lot of Confederate sympathizers, and it was also um, the governor.
Jefferson Davis's home state too.
Yeah, like the people that like led Kentucky were more Union focused, but maybe not so much the people that actually lived in Kentucky were Union people. So it was like a weird, almost,
Yeah.
I'd almost call it a yellow state in that sense of,
Well, my family had people that fought in both sides.
yeah,
Like, I'm from South Central Kentucky. We had people pretty about an even amount of number fought for the Confederacy and for the Union. Like, you know what I mean? Now, I will say that the ones that have my last name fought for the Union, and the ones that had, I guess, like the married side, they fought for the Confederacy. Not that I'm sure, like then, like I guess it was probably more like Kentucky was a poor state, so I'd say it was probably more of like, how does this benefit me? I don't really think that, like, I know nobody in my family owned slaves that I know of. Nobody ever talked about that they did. We never had any money. We don't own any land now. I think I would have known if we come from something that like had some kind of farm or something, right? So I think it was probably more or less like, hey, that's what my brother's doing, so I'm gonna go fight with my brother. Or
yeah,
that's what my cousin's doing, so I'm gonna go fight with my cousin or whatever.
kind of think
Like whatever,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
like what just like whatever like your community was doing too. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of times, even till like today times, you think about like people aren't really afraid of like an autocrat or like a politician. They're afraid of being different from their neighbor
Yeah,
because that's the people that you're around all the time and like your community. So I would say a lot of them, it was like, hey, you know, slavery's bad, obviously, but my farm, we trade with these people or we do this. So, people turn a blind eye for things. And I know that doesn't make it right. And of course, we know that it's not, but I think a lot of times it's not big picture stuff. I think a lot of times people make it like it's this huge thing,
well,
but really it's probably
I mean, talking about it back in the day, like you didn't have the internet, so
right.
or phones.
You might not even had one book in the house per family. Dude.
Well, you
People
didn't
have
have
stuff.
phones, you didn't have the internet, you
Yeah,
had the Pony Express.
letters and telegraph.
Yeah, like you didn't have. So all you really cared about was your bubble that was
Right.
around you.
Yeah.
And with it, I mean, really, even then, you didn't have cars. So you're talking like this 50-mile radius at
Yeah. You might
best.
see 10 different people out of the month.
Yeah.
Different. You know what I mean? And you might go to town once every 2 weeks if you even go to town.
Even if you're poor and you don't agree with whatever else is
Yeah.
going on, 'cause slavery wasn't the only thing. There was a lot of things that were
Right.
not
Yeah.
great about that period or whatever. So
Well,
regardless if you like if you had a opinion on that, you're like, well, I live here and everyone like I sell my grain to this guy, he's incredibly racist or has slaves himself, whatever. I think
right. But I don't.
racism was even
Yeah.
considered a
Right.
thing.
They didn't think about it probably.
Yeah. But so you're
Well,
all
they
you're
thought of
thinking
them.
about is still being able to feed your family yourself at that point.
Right.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
one person in a 50-mile radius isn't going to make a difference or whatever. But like
Well,
to like what you were saying about your family, people say I have a strange name, which is Willoughby, or like a different name, I guess. But even whenever I looked up, like what it was a pretty split, and it was a lot more than I imagined that I would find on this list. Like I've got a buddy named Van Dam. He only
John Claude.
no, his last name's Van Dam though, but he
That's
only
pretty
found
sick last name.
one person in the Confederacy that had his last name that fought for either side.
Yeah.
But one dude, one soldier was noted to have his last name, but on the Willoughby name was on pretty like it was common on both sides. Like there wasn't a bunch. I mean, it was like 60 on one side and 40 on the other side or something, but it was still pretty.
What is Willoughby? What is that origin? Is that English or?
Yeah. It
Okay.
means under the willow tree.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
My last name means horse thief or something.
And I can't remember
I
our
don't think that's
English
right. I'm just kidding.
like Targe or the your crest,
Yeah.
whatever you call it.
Uh,
What the can't remember what the Latin word was for it, but it means truth without fear.
that's pretty sick.
But either way, moving on. You were talking about, not wanting to be like a dissenter from your like
Yeah, being different than your neighbor.
or whatever. I did a whole lot of looking into like because my side of the podcast obviously is like looking into conspiracies and cryptids and like weird stuff. I did come across a story. It was actually from Carthage, Tennessee, and it was this guy that he was really, really against what the Confederacy was doing, and his whole family was farmers, and they were in the like, no, we're just going to do whatever because we got to make money, dude.
Hmm.
He got Whenever the war broke out, he went to Nashville and joined the first Union regiment that he found, which was something something cavalry. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but he ended up fighting for the Union for a couple years, and then his brigade, he like worked his way up. He ended up being not a general, but pretty close to it. But he ended up being near Carthage, Tennessee again. And this is kind of a ghost story. Who knows if it's real or anything, but it is kind of like a legend. Like it's a pretty well known Civil War like ghost story kind of thing. But he ended up being back close to Carthage, Tennessee, which is east of, for people that don't know, it's kind of like east of Nashville, probably about an hour, hour and a half east of Nashville, modern Nashville at least. And he went back there because that's where he was stationed at, and he ended up getting be able to take a leave. And he was like, "Well, I'm really close to where my parents or where my home was." So he went back and went to his house. He saw his dad standing on the porch. His dad didn't say anything to him and just kind of turned around. So he kind of thought, he's like, well, they didn't like that I was going to fight for the Union, so maybe they've disowned me, whatever. But he walked into the house. So his mom's sitting on like the couch or a chair or something, and he like expected his mom to be probably a little bit more understanding, and she didn't say anything. He turned around, so his sister kind of walked through the room, and then he turned back around. His mom and his dad were gone. And then he, like, nobody said anything to him. And he, like, tried to talk to them, and no, like, they just wouldn't respond. And he tried yelling for them after they, like, disappeared. And then they were just gone. And so he left. He ended up, like, walking back down his path, or the road or whatever, just to get back to town to where his brigade was or whatever. And he saw, like, one of his old, like, schoolmates. And he kind of alluded to what happened, like with him seeing his parents or whatever, and that his the mate didn't really say much to him. He was like, "Well, let's go back over there and let's go visit your home farm again." They ended up walking back, and there was not a house there. It was just burnt to the ground. And
Golly.
come to find out, he either imagined everything that he saw, or maybe something out there let him see his family again, but turns out the Union burned down his house with his parents and his siblings in it.
Wow. Golly. I guess I'd be pretty heated about that. Literally.
Well, I think from what I understood, it didn't really expand on it past that, like on like if
Yeah.
you flip sides, but I don't think he did. I think he still felt the need to fight for the Union, but
His convictions were too strong,
yeah.
obviously. I mean, like you said, but bigger calls, like I said earlier,
Yeah,
we were talking about.
though. I mean,
Yeah,
if that was, like I said, it didn't really expand on it from what I kind of assumed based on how it read on the ending of it, or how it read. I read the story, and then I also watched some videos on it, and no one really knew what happened after, but it kind of seemed like he continued to work for the or fight for the Union or whatever. But I was
Mm.
it would my convictions would have to be pretty strong for me to continue fighting for somebody that burned a house down with my
It
family.
definitely give you a bad taste in your mouth, for
Yeah,
sure.
and I
Yeah.
look
So,
for really fun things or really crazy things to find about the Civil War, but
there's not a lot.
there's a lot of modern ghost stories about, people visiting like Gettysburg and like some of the really big uh
Manassas, Bull
uh
Run,
battle sites or whatever.
yeah. Antietam is the bloodiest
Yeah, Antietam
battle ever.
is a big one.
Think
There's
all the blood spilled on that ground.
yeah. Oh yeah. So there's a bunch of ghost stories that come along with people visiting those places these days. But as far as like going back and trying to find weird, odd oddities or whatever, like that was really like the big one that stuck out to me was the guy that was from a Confederate state that decided to go to the Union, that his parents and family got killed by the Union.
Hmm. Do you think that I don't know how you feel about like this,
Slavery?
but do you think that being like in the South, being in the South, like they almost like romanticize the Civil War? You know what I mean? Like you always see like the documentaries or whatever, it'll start out like bluegrass music or something, and then it'll be like the young men took the field. And it'd be like these like stories when like a lot of these times would be like horrific. Like if you're a slave, it's all dude, it's like a very horrific thing. But I think like a lot of times in the South, it's kind of like romanticized is because these states did have a tremendous amount of power over the federal government in that they had, cotton. Even though the South economy was small and the population was only around 9 million people, all of the economy altogether and the population and stuff and whatever, not the population, but all of the economy together was still smaller than the entire economy of the state of New York back then.
Yeah.
But in 1860, the South sold 80% of the world's cotton. You know what I mean? So they had the money and they felt like they had the power to kind of, to succeed and to win in a war against the federal government. And also, the South also had probably questionably and arguably the best military minds out of West Point. They were from the South and they wouldn't break their convictions with their states. They couldn't, I guess, side with fighting against their home state. Like, you know what I mean? Like, states had way more, because back what we were saying, people didn't go very far. People didn't travel really out of their area. So, like, your state was kind of like your country back then. Like, you had pride in Virginia or you had pride in South Carolina. You weren't really necessarily like what they did in Pennsylvania didn't mean shit to you.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
I think
So,
it was it, slavery was obviously a big portion of the Civil War and
yeah,
whatnot, but like you kind of touched on there with states' rights or whatever,
yeah.
uh, that was a really big thing, and I really don't think that they were wrong for that reason of it, I guess.
Well, what made the powder
To
keg go
not want
off
those
is,
state rights to be taken away from them, because even these days, like the states' rights are like we're just like people say we don't have a king. We obviously don't have a king right now, but we have like this government that puts all these laws on all the states. Like think about weed. Like weed, you still like if you own like a marijuana business, you can't put that money into a federal like an FDIC bank because they'll just
right,
take it from you because it's still
right,
not federally legal.
right. Yeah, there's a
So
lot of
like
yeah.
there's still like that thing about it. So like I think at the root of
For
things,
states' rights for sure. I think that's all we have really that keeps us like the bit of republic that we are is the fact that we still have new states' rights. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say one of the big and this will probably get some if we have anybody that cares about this that listens to this, which I kind of doubt, but Roe v. Wade
Right,
overturned.
right.
It wasn't really. It should all it did was return the decision back to the
The
state.
power back to the state, which is good.
Yeah, I think so. I not
I
like
think so.
100% think so. Like I'll never.
I think that's good, but I don't really know enough. Like, you know what I mean? I don't really try to hit on that because it doesn't matter to me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
Like,
mean, I'm not affected by it, obviously. I don't think I would
right.
ever be with somebody that would ever even consider that as an option also.
I'm pro-choice anyway, so it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like I'm pro-choice already, so like I said, that is not even an issue to me. So
Fair.
I guess I don't
Either
even
way,
look at that.
all I'm saying, I'm not trying to get into that debate
Yeah, we don't, not
right
at
now,
all.
but just
Yeah,
returning things back to states or whatever, because they're really trying to sweeten the deal with this big beautiful bill thing that they're trying to push through that's going to put us $3 trillion more into debt, but
maybe five. That's
yeah,
all said
maybe
and done.
five. But it's also supposed to return the rights back to the states for things like short barrel shotguns, suppressors. So they're trying to sweeten the deal to the gun owners out there and be like, hey, yeah, we're going to add 5 trillion to the national debt, but you don't have to have this excise tax on suppressors or short barrel shotguns or can't remember that
Right.
there was three or four things, but they're supposed to return all those rights to the states and yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really any states that would, especially the ones where the gun owners are not going to put those taxes back on those things. So,
Right. But back to the Civil War, the American Civil War. So, kind of what started the powder keg of everything, though, is that Abraham Lincoln ran against a guy named John C. Breckinridge. And he was a Southern Democrat because obviously the Democratic Party had people in the North and the South, right? So there was already the split up between the Southern Democrats and the Northern Democrats already. So that was already kind of like this underlying tone. And then you had President Lincoln that was backed by a new party, the Republican Party. And he said that obviously slavery is something that he's going to try to get taken away. Well, the South did not like that because they like their cotton and their free labor and all that. So John C. Breckinridge ran on that. So as soon as President uh, Lincoln was elected in November, the first 7 states already seceded. They followed South Carolina, but then after he was elected, the other four right after in the inauguration. So that's when the war started. So John C. Breckinridge kind of went to the wayside, and Jefferson Davis stepped in the picture. Jefferson Davis, though, was not a very good leader. He was a very erratic person, very temperamental. He didn't do good under pressure. They even said there's experts that say had Lincoln led the Confederacy, then the Confederacy might have very well won because the war started out in the Western Front in 1861 and 62, or the Western Theater in 1861, 1862. And the Union made really good gains, but in the Eastern Theater, dude, is inconclusive because you had Stonewall Jackson in the picture then, man, and the Valley Campaign, which I'm about to hit on here in a minute.
I was gonna say, when did
And
was Stonewall in it from the jump?
yeah, he was in it from the jump.
Okay.
But the Valley campaign, though, man, it there was Europeans that even talked about how like good of a military mind he was during the Valley campaign because he marched 17,000 men, almost 700 miles in 48 days, and won battles throughout every bit of that march against three Union armies of about 55,000 men. And he prevented the Union from getting an offensive against the city of Richmond, which was the Confederate stronghold. That's where the Northern Army of Virginia was, and Robert E. Lee, and all that. So just incredible how he could do that. But they say that Stonewall Jackson may have very well been autistic. He was a very like peculiar man, and he just once he got something in his mind, like he just couldn't, stop doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
Just a kind of a crazy
Uh,
person. But
had had they like his outlook on like battles? Did he do? I'm just trying to probe you for answers to be honest at this point, but like guerrilla warfare, like why was he so good?
guerrilla warfare, and also he was very good at knowing his opponent. He was like really like had a really good mind of like knowing because he went to West Point, so he knew like some of the guys he was fighting against. He knew personally, and he was really good like observer. and he could like break down like, hey, this is who's in command of this field. I bet he's going to do this. There's almost a chance, and he wouldn't wait. He would just go with his gut. So that's kind of why they call him Stonewall, because he in any amount of like uh what's the word I'm looking for? Uh
Just
I guess
opposition.
like struggle or opposition, like he was unwavering. So like his men really like looked up to him because he would go right out there with them, where a lot of these generals and stuff they wouldn't.
Yeah. So it was almost like like today, like watching football, like if you're a really
Yeah,
good
he pulled it out of his
or
men. He rallied 17,000 dudes to beat 52,000. So he was just a very good leader.
yeah, yeah. What like kind of what you were going with the West Point side, he knew he was going against, so he almost had like film
Yeah, yeah,
on,
yeah,
on
yeah.
it's like I said with the football or baseball reference or whatever, like he had
Mhm.
film in his head of what the other team would probably likely do or like what their
Yes.
strategy would likely be, so he would go off of that. Like he was like, yeah, I know this dude, Andrew, he's probably gonna go this way with this, and I'll go more on the offensive, and he's probably gonna be more defensive, and I'll just flank him and mess him up or whatever.
We know he'd already fought like in these wars, like he fought with the actual U.S. Army in the U.S. and Mexican War. So like he fought side by side with these guys, even Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah,
So they all knew each other. So he just had that, and I think too he was a big guy. So I think like people, a lot of times like not that that matters necessarily in battle, but I think he was like such a big figure, not only in stature, but in like his like aura. You
personality.
know what I mean? Yeah, like he was like an enigma. Like you know what I mean? Like in a sense,
Was it?
as to like where
Which one
Williams
was he?
comes to
I think it was
huh?
Stonewall. I wonder.
I'm not sure, but
Stonewall.
like and his where on the other side of the Union you had William Tecumseh Sherman, which was kind of the same way.
I'm not in freaking Britain. Why is this saying it? Why is this given to me in meters?
He taught at the Virginia Military Institute for a while.
Hold on, I'm trying to. Okay, so he was 5'10" in
Yeah,
1861.
big
That
guy
was,
for
that
probably
was a
back
big
then.
fella back then. Yeah.
Yeah. Ain't that wild, dude? George Washington was enormous. He was like 6'3", He was out there just like a crazy man. Like, oh my God, who is this? It's like whenever Happy Gilmore hits his ball in that guy's foot. He's like, oh my God, who is that coming across the field? They have giants over there. Yeah,
Is that
man. William Madge
is
is
it
the
the
greatest. Holy shit.
when we seceded from Britain when like during that war and it was during Christmas. Who was
Oh,
Washington?
whenever they went across the
Washington was
damn
like
Potomac River at Christmas time and like
yeah,
killed the damn Britons on Christmas Eve.
yeah, and George Washington was like six
Yeah.
two or something like
He's
that.
coming across the water in that boat and you're like, holy
Yeah. He
shit.
was like a
Yeah,
big
Shane
up.
Gillis has a bit.
Yeah,
Like who's
that's
this
what I was
bigger
getting
Greek?
to is like
Yeah.
he had all of this lead in his teeth from where he had
Yeah.
and so that was driving him
That made him crazy. Yeah.
So he was like
Driving him fucking
everyone
nuts.
thought he was gonna cross this river to go fight. He's like, get over this get
That's what I think is funny. Obviously we're talking about the Civil War, but the Civil Wars, dude, it's kind of like you said, it's dark, dude. There's not even like any much like funny like stories or nothing about the Civil War, like because it's all like you think about people getting their fucking legs cut off,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
which hits home to me. I think about like them just like with a bone saw sawing through my femur with no anesthetic, or they just punch you in the face, rear back, and give you a fucking knuckle sandwich, knock
Yeah,
you out.
they probably knocked people out, and then on top of that, there was probably a whole lot of alcohol, like whiskey
Oh yeah,
involved.
and
And
opium or whatever that shit is like.
yeah, but I mean, that wasn't even opium, like a Middle Eastern, like
Oh,
Vietnam
they had
area.
opium.
Like that's where like opium dens were really like a big thing. I'm sure we had it over here. Well, I know we did. I know we
I
had
can just imagine you like
it.
laying there after like you're like in Manassas and you get like shot in the leg and it's not even that bad of a wound, right? It's like, but you're gonna get infections. So like you're laying on the table, you're like, no man, it's all right. Like, dude, we gotta cut it off. You're like, no man, I'm gonna be all right. And they're like rear back and like, I'm gonna just want to knock you out, dude. You want me to give you one of these? Like they punch, like they hold you down, punch you in the face, then cut your leg off. Like your own people do more damage to you than like you getting shot by the other people.
I gather. I mean, I bet I know that they didn't have antibiotics and whatnot, but I mean, you think about the
No,
time. I mean, I've never been shot, also, so maybe
it may be good.
this could be an ignorant thing for me to say, but depending on where you get shot in your leg or your arm, you could just be careful and
Well,
not get
listen, dude.
infected.
Here's what I think. I think that guy across the field just been digging in his ass. He ain't showered in a month.
Oh, and he
He's
put the
got his bare hand up his ass. He puts the bullet, fucking shucks it in there, fucking blows the snot rocket out of his nose, and then bam, shoots you in the hand.
plus
Now you got to cut your whole arm off.
plus 10 poison damage on that thing.
Yeah, he's over spitting tobacco juice on the bullet and putting it in his
It
damn.
could be true too. I just that's one of the things. Like I was watching and reading as much as I have here in the past couple weeks. Once we started talking about doing this, I was like, how many times was it really, really necessary? Like that somebody would have gotten an infection from something. I'm sure there's a bunch of them. I'm talking probably 60-40. 60 of them probably needed to be amputated, but there was probably 40 of them that probably would have been all right.
Have you ever seen the movie Dances with Wolves with Kevin Costner?
I mean, a long time ago, man.
So the opening scene of that movie, he fights for the Union. And the opening scene of that movie, it's like him laying on a table in like a medical tent, like in a hospital tent. And there's these two doctors, and they're not even doctors, right? They're just wearing damn barber's jackets, white jackets, and smoking cigarettes and
I
talking
mean,
to
you
each other.
remember fact for this little bit, but you remember back in the day, the reason that the uh, barbers' poles are red and white is because they would have their things like rags that were drying. They would have white ones out there that were
Yeah.
clean, and then they would have the red ones up there that were full of blood that were drying so that they could eventually wash them. And that's why barbers' poles are red and white, because the barbers back in the day were also the doctors.
Right. Yeah. They was the only ones that wield that razor blade, dog. They cut you right up.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of that movie, it starts out like Kevin Costner had just got shot in like the foot or like his calf area. It's like below the knee. So he's laying there and he's got blood on his face. He's obviously like very like shell shocked. And he's looking around and he's like they're like talking about how they're going to cut his leg off, but they're so tired that they have to go drink coffee to like stay awake and then come back and do it. So like he passes out from pain. Well, he wakes up, dude, and he looks over, and there's like a pile of like bloody boots, like 60 boots piled up from like where like other people have had their legs cut off. And he fishes out what looks like his boot, and it's covered in blood. He pulls it back on, and that pain from that makes him pass out again. So he's like, oh, fuck, dude, I'm not going to let these people cut my leg off. So he stumbles out of the damn hospital tent and gets on a horse and like just runs the horse right out in the middle of the battlefield. And like the Confederacy is like, what's this crazy person doing? So like they're like pulling their rifles up, dude, and they're shooting at him, and he's running across the field like as hard as he can, like trying to die pretty much, like because he don't want to like live because he's looking around, seeing all these guys on crutches with that, with their legs cut off and just like hobbling around. And you got to think back then, dude. There's like the prosthetics they did have were homemade. They were very like terrible. Like mine is uncomfortable sometimes now, and it's top, state of the art. You know what I mean? So I can imagine like back then, and like back then, dude, you had to do all that manual labor. So I'm sure like it was a very big hindrance on your life. So, but anyway, so he goes through that. Well, he ends up living, and like the Union end up winning that battle. So like the general or whatever ends up like tracking him down, and he's like, "Hey, man." He's like, you got to stop. And Kevin Costner's like, you're not taking my leg. And he just kind of smiles and he goes, I'll make damn sure, son, that nobody takes your leg. And he said, and I'll see to it myself. I'll get you my own surgeon and my own doctor. So, like you said, there were people that could keep their stuff if they were deemed valuable enough.
Yeah.
Right. So, just like anything else. But that's just always I always thought that was a cool part of it because like it like opens up with like people's getting their legs. So I'm like, oh god, dude. We watched it the other day. I was like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this at all.
You think they it's obviously a different war again, but or
We can get hit all of them. You
the
know, I'm just bouncing
Revolutionary
around.
War
Yeah.
again that I brought up, but you're talking about a movie, but you talk about people surviving from getting shot. What about the guy in The Patriot that gets hit by the cannonball?
He blows his leg off. Yeah, right there. That one's like, oh man. What about whenever Mel Gibson goes blood drunk in front of his sons and just hacks that dude in the back about 95 times?
Yeah.
How would he be able to explain that in a military court? Like, hey man, what happened, mate, dude? I just killed him. Like, no, you didn't, dude. You massacred that one dude. I mean, if you went
He
straight
needed
through his
to
rib
die.
cage, yeah, he did. What about spoiler alert tires whenever they have the episode about the Revolutionary War and Gerbius comes walking in looking like Mel Gibson.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, who you think you are, Mel Gibson? He's like, yeah, I kind of look good. He goes, ah, whatever, dude. Man. But so what is your favorite war to like study about?
Man,
American War, I guess.
yeah, I mean, these aren't really, this is just not usually my thing. Like I've talked to you about it, obviously.
I was trying to make it funny, dude. The Civil War, I can get so into it. Like I just get so like nerded out with it. Like I deep dive and I don't even like look up for a while. So like it's just so dense and there's so much like underlying drama with the Civil War, like because it's within the United States of America. So
Yeah.
it's like all that underlying stuff, and the record keeping was terrible. Like it
Yeah.
was the record keeping for the Civil War was almost worse than the record keeping for the Revolutionary War, just because a lot of the stuff burned. Like like you said, people would just burn everything. They would go to a place and like, all right, we don't want the Confederacy to have this farm, so we're just going to torch everything, or we don't want the
Yeah. I
Union to
mean,
have
I mean,
this, so we're
like
going to
that.
torch everything.
I mean, I think there's a whole lot of all of these wars, and I'm talking about
All of them.
Vietnam, like all of them, every single one of, even Iraq, which we're all there's a lot more news and a lot more reporting, obviously, when it comes to our like Iraq, obviously at this point, at this stage, but back like Vietnam and Gulf War, everything prior to that, there could be any amount of things that could have actually happened that they say happened a different way that
Yeah,
actually
we don't
did.
know.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
think you just have to pick a good like person to follow and just kind of like somebody that you know has maybe good references or good like they are good about citing work, maybe.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Vietnam, I think, has a pretty good amount of uh, good reporting for something that happened some
Oh
years
yeah,
ago, at least
it does.
on like exactly what happened, and we all know that there was really no reason for us to be over there.
Right.
Like it was just a really like it was a very like we had all the agents
Well, Ho
read
Chi
through
Minh
read through
had
Orange and everything else. What?
Ho, Ho Chi Minh had already tried to meet with
Ho Chi
Truman.
Minh, shoot a load on your chin.
I think it was either Truman or Woodrow Wilson, like years before, and like about like, hey, we want the French out of Vietnam. Like we don't want them in there. Like that's what it was all about.
Yeah,
They just didn't want them in there. So, and he was like, I'm not listening. I don't care. But maybe it was one of them. Maybe Eisenhower. Anyway, one of those through there, that run there of those. But
well, I mean,
that's
Vietnam
why
was
it
like
just made an
70s.
enemy. Well, it started in the 60s.
Yeah, yeah, but we didn't enter until the 70s, though, right? Or was it late?
No, early 60s.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of something
Yeah.
different. Like I said, I'm not good with dates on this stuff. That's the whole
Right
reason.
after the Bay of Pigs invasion, all that.
I wish, like, I love all this stuff. I love learning about it, but for some reason, like, dates are just escape me. I forget, like, all of that stuff for whatever reason. And I know we've already, it's the one of the episodes that I probably did the most research on and am still researching at this point, which is Laurel Canyon or whatever. Like I've read 3 books on Laurel Canyon since.
You got a good one for you to read, though, by the way. I mean to give you, it's about Crosby, Stills, and Nash from back then. It's like their like diary entries and stuff from like back then. I'll let you check it
I
out.
mean,
I've been meaning to bring it to you, and I keep forgetting.
I think it was the first or second episode we ever did, and
It
it's
was early.
no, it was literally it was 1 or 2, and I think it's 2 because I just recently uploaded all those really old ones, and I know the Laurel Canyon episode is one of them that I can't find, and I hate that because it's one that I did the most research on, and I'll end up doing another episode on it. But the reason I bring that up for people that don't know is Jim Morrison of the Doors' dad is the one is was the captain of the ship that supposedly got attacked by Vietnam in the Gulf of Tonkin, which is what kicked off the Vietnam War.
Right.
Um, and it's basically been proven at this point that that actually didn't happen. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of what I'm saying, like Vietnam. But like you go back to like World War II, like with the Nazis, like there were so many things that we burnt up over there, and like we took the art and basically gave most of it to the Vatican, and then we brought all the gold back home. And then, but we burnt down all of their stuff, all their records, so they don't really have any records, and everything that we know about World War II is what we wrote about World War II. Kind of same with World War One, because I mean we nuked Japan, so like they ain't got nothing left over there, which is wild too, because for some reason we nuked a uh, civilian area whenever we could have
Dude,
we
I'm reading a book
their
right
army
now.
bases, which would have crippled them, and they would have just stopped attacking us because they didn't have a military force anymore. But for some reason, we're taking out Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Who cares?
Right. I'm reading a book right now called Dragon. It's by Clive Cussler, and it's got like an alternate like reality of like if Japan had become a economical power after World War II, like the bombs still drop, right? But like they become like more or less like subservient to us, but at the same time they weren't. Like they made a plan that they started sending but they got real friendly with us after the war. So they did it on purpose to send
And right? Did
American
you say Japan?
uh yeah,
Japan.
Japan. Yeah, Japan. After World War II, they started sending over Japanese citizens to become American citizens and have children here to have American citizens, but to be like sleeper agents for like the Japanese government. And the whole time, the Japanese are building up this economic powerhouse, like building cars like Toyota and Honda and stuff. So the way the story opens up is there's an aircraft carrier kind of deal, but its only job is to transport brand new vehicles from Japan to the USA. So each one of these carriers like carries like 7,200 cars, like sedans, SUVs, etc. And fast forward to 1993 is when this book takes place, and there's a tropical storm happening in the ocean, or a tsunami happens in the Pacific Ocean, and the ship carrying the cars gets like all mixed up in the storm. So this ship close by like radios out for help, and nobody answers. So they send boats over to see what's going on, to see if they're like are in distress or whatever. So they send some guys over there, and when the guys get over there, dude, like they notice at the bridge of the boat that the guy at like the controls or whatever is in like full uniform, but like his skin is like melted off. They described it in the book like the dude had been put on a rotisserie, took off the rotisserie and put in clothes and set back down. So they're like, what the fuck is going on? So like they start looking around the boat, around this huge ship, and they get down to like the cargo hold where all these cars are. Well, all of a sudden, dude, they start feeling really sick, and it's radiation poison. The Japanese are smuggling like atom bombs into the United States with these cars, and they've been doing it for Lord knows how long. And they're all like strategically placed all over the United States and all these other countries so that Japan, whenever they get ready to call this debt in to like the United States and all these other countries that they've been like loaning money to and selling cars to and stuff, that they have to either pay the debt, be blown up, or be subservient to Japan.
Hmm.
Pretty cool, man. I'm about like a halfway through. It's just a pretty cool like alternate reality because it has like some other historical stuff in it that's accurate, like that kind of goes along with it. Like all the people like from like World War II are in it, like all your big names, and like it's just pretty neat, like a different like look at like what could have happened or what could have been, I guess.
Why would you, I mean, to bounce off of that, to be honest, why would you say what could have been? Because I mean, that was only in the 30s, so
Right, that's what I'm
it
saying.
would
We'll see.
it would take them 100 years to put this into place, and
Right.
we're it,
It was in the 40s.
it
August 1945.
whatever.
Yeah.
But either way, it would take them 100 years to put something like this in just into place.
In motion.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, for real. I mean, you're probably
But
looking at something that could be 200-300 years in the making, and
the Japanese has nuclear power
leaders
plants.
and their leaders are looking that far ahead. They're like, yeah, our country could be the powerhouse
Right.
in 200-300 years if we start doing this. So what I'm saying is they could be doing this right now. Like this,
Yeah, anybody could be. What do we know, right?
yeah. I mean, it's like this isn't really like something that
It's that
is
far-fetched.
totally out of the question, or yeah,
No, that's why I think it's a fun book. It's a very fun book for me to read because it has everything I like in it. It has the World War II stuff, and it has like, hey, dude, this is pretty cool. I'll let you borrow it. It's good.
yeah, I'll
It's a good
definitely
book.
read it. That sounds
Yeah, it's like historical. It's called, I forget what category it is, but this dude's a good writer. I just like him a lot. But I don't really have a whole lot. Did you see the podcast between Tucker and Ted Cruz?
I hadn't yet. No.
Oh my God, dude. Tucker gets him on the ropes big time. Tucker calls Ted Cruz a slippery feline or a slippery feline or something, like how he acts and all this stuff.
I know, funny enough, and like I have friends that
Sleazy feline.
are what I would almost consider far left that have
Yeah.
sent me like videos of it, and I don't really like throw out my beliefs. Like I've watched Tucker a little bit or whatever
Yeah.
after he left Fox News.
Yeah.
But he's said some things in the past like 6 months that worry me about Tucker, but the reels that have been sent to me today by the people that I consider very left, I'm like, I would have never assumed this person would have ever sent me a Tucker Carlson reel.
Right.
Like, what is going
They're
on?
eating it up.
I was like,
They're
I
eating
need
it
to
up.
watch this, but I've
Yeah.
been
It's just
basically
funny. I just think about the Tom Segura bit of him giving Ted Cruz shit, and every time I see Ted Cruz, I just think about that. So it's just funny to see him like get worked up because you'll see when you see it that he has him all the way fucked up. It's pretty funny.
yeah, I think it's
Like Tucker sets him up like an interrogator, dude. Like he like has him saying all this wild shit. He doesn't has him saying like we dropped the bombs on Iran. The U.S., not Israel. And he's like, wait, what a minute. He's like, this is breaking news. This is breaking news right now. And Ted Cruz is like, no. That's not what I'm saying. He's like, it's what you just said. And he's like, no. Which, yeah, that's funny, man.
Yeah, I'll end up watching it. I just had, like I said, I've been trying to keep up with you on the Civil War stuff because I knew you're going to be like much more on it than I am. But
If y'all like this stuff, I was kind of a little out of sorts tonight. I'm kind of tired. It's storming crazy here. I'm trying to just lighten outside, and I kind of got stage fright a little bit whenever we start. I don't know why. I don't know if maybe because it's late at night or what, but
Well, I
if
think
y'all like this kind of stuff, me and Wes might do some more of these kind of more historical, political episodes, but just kind of let us know what you think about it.
I was gonna
Nick will
say,
be back
we're
next
doing
week,
something new. I was gonna say this is the first time ever I
Me
think
and
that we've
you,
ever done with just two people.
just two. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
So this has been
It's definitely
it
quieter.
went a lot better than I thought it was going to be honest,
Yeah.
because I'm
It's
used
quieter too.
yeah. Well, I don't know about lighter.
No. Like I was giving Nick a hard time. I said it's been quieter.
Oh, quieter.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, I don't know. We're talking about fucking Civil War,
Yeah, man.
Revolutionary
But
War.
seriously, if y'all do like this stuff, man, I'm all about it. Like I would love to do maybe like one or two a month if we could fit that in and maybe put them out. Not like a set day, but we could maybe let us
Yeah,
know what
this is
kind of
gonna
like
be
topics you would want to hear. It would
this
just
will
kind of
for
be on our own time deal.
yeah, this will for sure be another.
Patreon.
No, I did. We did the deep divers. I'm sure we'll get back into it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And me and Travis are still rocking and rolling with the Real Fine by Me. Just check those out.
I like this stuff, and to be honest, like for some reason, like everything that you've talked about, I'll retain much better than me trying to retain it on myself, if that makes any sense.
I didn't even get all the stuff I wanted to get because there's just so much.
Oh yeah, I mean we could probably do th
You could
eight.
do battle, dude. You could do 2 hours on one battle.
Yeah,
I mean, really.
I
If
was gonna
if you
say,
really
and
wanted to get all the ins and outs.
just me like doing all the reading that I've done, like I've watched 6 hours of stuff just on the Battle of Gettysburg.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that
man.
was after me trying to find weird and like odd horror cryptid facts or whatever about the Civil War.
Ian Burns has some really good Civil War documentaries. If people are interested in that, they're really, really good.
But to te a little teaser, and this is one that I want us to get to, and this is one that I will have a whole lot of knowledge about is JFK.
Yeah,
And Josh will have probably a large portion of his history side of things, and
I've already kind of started that one. We could definitely keep it going.
I'll be able to go over the assassination. Like I know every angle of the assassination situation with JFK. Like all.
Assassination Situation. That's my favorite band.
Uh, what else we got going? Nick will be back next week. He's gonna resurrect after the hot air balloon situation. Um,
Finishing his treatments.
yeah, finish his treatments. I think he did die, but they were able to get him back a couple
I'm
times.
not gonna say that. I'm not gonna put that evil out there.
Well, I mean, as long as he doesn't get on a hot air balloon, if he gets
I
it
just said he had AIDS.
next week, then I'm going to be like, hey, maybe don't get on this hot air balloon because I've already put it kind of out there in the ethosphere or whatever. So let's not get on any hot air balloons anytime soon.
Like, you ain't never gonna find me on a hot air balloon.
I went
No,
on one at Balloons, Tunes, and Barbecue, but it was tethered.
yeah, not unless I'm out in the ocean trying to get away from sharks. That's the only way I'm getting up in a hot air balloon.
Uh,
Just happen like that.
I am going on the Rock Roost podcast on tomorrow. If you're listening
On
to
tomorrow.
Friday, Friday the 20th, I
Yeah.
guess, is I'll be doing that. I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know what their schedule is, so I'll share it on the Find by Me page whenever they throw that one out there, and then at some point whenever Nick's back and we can have those dudes in the library with us, we'll do that. This week was just a good one to knock out with.
Slow it down. We just slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
No. Oh, went and saw Theo last night. Second
Oh,
time
you did? Yeah.
in 4 months. It was really good. He had a lot more new material than I expected from just seeing him whenever that was.
Theo's done turned into a big star, man. Theo's like he's people, dude. He's all over the news and everything. I mean, he's like talked about as much as I hate to say like a Taylor Swift or something like that, but he's up there with them as far as like being in the news.
I know. I know. I think he's trying to capitalize on it. I was kind of worried the other day because he started. He doesn't do Patreon or anything.
Right.
I don't think he has to because he makes good money.
Yeah.
But I think he has realized that his name is out there so much that he started to put. He doesn't do Patreon, but if you're not aware, we could circumvent Patreon and just do YouTube subscription only stuff, which is what he has started to do.
YMH does that as well.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we might do that.
started to do subscription only YouTube's.
But
But
not for the weekly episode, guys. Relax. That's always going to be on the house.
yeah, no.
But the extra stuff,
Yeah.
you may have to get in that pocketbook a little bit.
Well, I think if we switch to hell, we're getting inside baseball stuff again. I would just get rid of Patreon and just do only YouTube if that was going to happen. To be honest,
We like to be transparent with our listeners, so we're giving y'all all this. Y'all are in on the budget meeting, the board meetings, and all that. We don't. There isn't much to talk about.
it is fun. It is funny that we do whenever we do have meetings that we record them. Maybe one day, 10 years from now,
God, dude,
we'll
Man,
just
what do you
release the
mean?
ones that we did,
Yeah,
and it's
you can
just
see our skull and bones behind the cloak and dagger meetings,
it's just us for 30 minutes being like, "You
arguing.
gonna get these freaking shirts made or
Yeah.
not?"
Goodness. Well, I think that's been an episode.
Are there stickers?
There are stickers.
Stickers.
Yeah, there are stickers. We got stickers. I haven't given a sticker to nobody but my family or myself. If who wants a sticker?
Oh, I put
We got lots of stickers.
there's one at Zany's on the wall somewhere right now.
That's pretty sick.
I put one in Bridgestone. I just start throwing. I've been putting.
They look like this.
We
Well,
can't see
hold
that.
on. Dang it, dude! Why does it do that whenever
we
it's
go.
not a person?
Well,
Hold
there
on.
we go. Sort of.
There, you get the gist of it.
Yeah,
There we go.
Yeah, we got
There
it.
we go. There it is. Sticker,
If you want
sticker.
a sticker, I'll mail you one.
Yeah, man.
I'll
You
mail
call
you
it is, but you gotta like.
throw it in an envelope and put some postage on it or something. It'll probably get wrinkled up or something on the way there. But
Nah, they didn't get wrinkled up shipping. You know what I mean?
that's what I
Put
mean.
it in a bubble wrap. We'll put it in a piece of bubble wrap.
Now we will not do that because that would cost more than the sticker itself.
I've got lots of bubble wrap.
Um,
Anyway, thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thank y'all for listening. If y'all have like JFK's in the works, we're gonna do that. I want that to be probably our first, or we might even do 2 hours for the JFK episode if Josh will
Yeah.
let us do 2 hours because
do too. Yeah, spread out. I don't want to rush it.
but if y'all have something history wise, especially war related,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
love for y'all to suggest something for us on that end. Revolution, I mean, American wars.
It doesn't have to be American. It could be Napoleonic Wars. It could be something like that, but not like I want it to be a fun one. I don't want it to be I don't want to talk about the Boer Wars from 1891 to 1897. You know what I mean?
If you want to
I
talk
won't do
about the
that.
Crusades, I can
Crusades are pretty sick.
I can
That's
talk about
pretty
the
cool.
Crusades a pretty good amount. Actually, some of them I know a great deal about.
World War One, World War Two, any of those.
All the easy ones, yeah, or all the not easy ones, but like all the obvious ones, I guess is what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much the ones everybody that already gets to hear about.
yeah. Well, all right,
Well, thank
We
y'all
did
for listening again, and
we did it, dude. Just two of us.
I think we did over an hour.
Little
Did we do over an hour?
I don't know.
Let me see. Hold on. I think we did, dude. 1 hour and 10 seconds right now.
Just the two of
We
us.
did it.
We did
Just
it.
the two.
This was an experiment, and I think it worked. I think we're gonna do
I didn't
this.
think we'd get 40 minutes, to be honest with you.
I think this is fun.
Primo.
I liked it. It was different.
All my facts are probably wrong, so y'all
Oh,
enjoy it.
I'm sure whatever I said was wrong, so don't
go.
take this as fact.
No. Okay. Well, peace out.
All right, love y'all.
Like,
Take it
comment, share, subscribe.
fine by me.